In this video, I'm going to go over the hypothesis test assignment. In the paper, students will focus on one political outcome, a dependent variable, and identify one factor, an independent variable, that influences variations in that outcome. Students then have to provide a theory to explain why the independent variable influences variations in the dependent variable, derive a testable hypothesis from that theory, and use a regression analysis to determine the statistical relationship between their independent and dependent variables. The specific instructions and grading criteria for the assignment are available in a Word document on Module 14 of Blackboard. You should read the document before watching the rest of this video and refer to the document when writing your paper. The first step in conducting a hypothesis test is to pick a dependent and independent variable. To facilitate this process, you should choose one of the data sets on the CD that accompanies your lab book, an SPSS companion to political analysis, and choose both a dependent and independent variable from the same dataset. The last section of your lab book, an SPSS companion to political analysis, tells you what the variables in each dataset measure. You should refer to it when picking your variables. You should make sure your variables are not nominal level, but are ordinal, interval, or ratio level. In other words, your variables should have some inherent order. For example, religious affiliation is a nominal level variable and has no order, so you should not use that variable in your analysis. Now, normally the next step in the hypothesis test process is to read and summarize the literature that identifies factors that influence your dependent variable. This is similar to what you did in your annotated bibliography assignment. However, since this is a short hypothesis test assignment, I'm going to have you skip that part. Next, after you review the literature that pertains to your dependent variable, you then create a theory to explain why your independent variable influences your dependent variable. Then you derive a hypothesis from that theory. This will be part 1 of your paper, which should be about 1 page long. In this section, you should describe your dependent variable. What is the conceptual definition? Then you should describe your independent variable. What is the conceptual definition? Then you should discuss how you expect the independent variable to affect the dependent variable. Is there a positive or negative effect? In other words, as the independent variable increases, does the dependent variable increase, positive effect, or decrease, negative effect? Make sure to explain why you think the independent variable influences the dependent variable that way. After this discussion, state your hypothesis using a similar format to the following hypothesis. The more conservative voters are in a state, the less likely that state is going to vote for a Democrat in a presidential election. After you write your theory and hypothesis section, you run your data analysis in SPSS. This will be part 2 of your assignment. In the first paragraph of part 2 of your assignment, you should describe the operational definition of your dependent variable. What values does your dependent variable take? What do these values mean? You should refer to the very first lab you completed in this course in Chapter 1 of your lab book if you forgot how to read what the variables measure when reading an SPSS dataset. In the second paragraph of part 2, you should describe your independent variable. What values does the variable take? What do these values mean? How do you expect this independent variable to affect your dependent variable, positive or negative effect? Next, you should run a regression between your dependent and independent variables in SPSS and interpret the results. The Lecture 10 video and the Lab 8 video will tell you how to run a regression and how to interpret the results. You should follow these 2 videos when interpreting the results. Make sure to copy and paste your regression results into part 2 of your paper. The hypothesis test assignment is due on Blackboard on December 11th, 2015 at 11:59 p.m. Mountain Time.